Question 1. In the context of managing risk for a retail business, Iselina operates a boutique in downtown Miami. She recently updated her commercial property policy but did not review the conditions section. A few weeks later, her boutique was vandalized. When she filed a claim, the insurer denied it, citing her failure to comply with certain policy conditions related to security systems. Which of the following best explains the likely reason for the denial? A. The vandalism was not a covered peril under her policy. B. The policy did not include coverage for third-party acts. C. She failed to fulfill a condition precedent required under the policy. D. Her business was not considered a direct property owner. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. The conditions section of a commercial property policy outlines obligations the insured must meet for coverage to apply. These include maintaining security systems if stipulated. Florida courts uphold that failure to satisfy a condition precedent, such as maintaining alarms, can void coverage. This aligns with FLA Stat. SS 627.409, which allows denial if material condition is breached. Question 2. To illustrate this point, a fire damages the premises of Cafe Azul in Tampa, forcing it to close temporarily. The business had coverage for business income and extra expense. The insurer agreed to cover the loss, but the owner also claimed lost income from catering contract that was never finalized. How should this be handled? A. The claim is valid under extra expense coverage. B. The lost income from pending contract is not recoverable. C. The entire claim is voided due to speculation. D. The loss is covered under ordinance or law coverage. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Business income coverage applies to actual loss of net income due to suspension of operations caused by a covered peril. Unfinalized or speculative contracts do not qualify as actual loss sustained, as clarified in AS OCP 030 in Florida case law E. GUS Firings v. Unexecuted contracts lack sufficient certainty to warrant indemnification. Question 3. While examining construction risk scenarios, Mr. Patel, a general contractor, includes a hold harmless clause in his subcontract with a roofer. A passerby is injured by falling debris. The injured party sues both Mr. Patel and the roofer. Patel tenders the claim to his CGL insurer, which denies coverage for the roofer's portion of the loss. Why might the CGL insurer be correct? A. The CGL excludes bodily injury entirely. B. Contractual liability coverage does not apply to assumed liabilities. C. The policy only covers direct employees. D. The subcontractor's actions fall under professional liability. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Standard CGL policies exclude liability assumed under a contract unless it qualifies under the insured contractor exception. G. Hold harmless for tort liability. However, if the contractor assumes full liability on behalf of the roofer, this exceeds the policy scope as per CG01 and FLA Stat. SS 627.428. Coverage hinges on whether liability would exist absent the contract. Question 4. Based on the information available, which of the following actions would most likely result in disciplinary action by the Florida Department of Financial Services DFS against a licensed insurance agent? A. Discussing policy options in a recorded Zoom meeting. B. Failing to return unearned commissions upon policy cancellation. C. Advertising on social media using approved carrier templates. D. Offering clients multiple insurer quotes for comparison. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Florida law mandates agents to return unearned commissions when a policy is cancelled midterm. Under FLA Stat. SS 626.561. Failing to remit such commissions is breach of fiduciary duty and grounds for administrative penalties, including suspension or revocation of license. This protects consumers and ensures ethical conduct. Question 5. Taking into account property valuation practices, a business owner in Orlando insures their warehouse at replacement cost value. After a hurricane damages the roof, the insurer reimburses only the depreciated amount. The insured is upset and demands full replacement value. Which of the following is the most likely explanation? A. The policy did not include ordinance or law coverage. B. The deductible was misapplied. C. The insured failed to complete repairs before replacement cost applies. D. The insurer used market value instead. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Replacement cost (RC) policies typically require that the insured actually replace the damaged property before RC coverage is fully applied. Until repairs are made, actual cash value (SCV) may be paid. This aligns with ASO CP 010 and FLA Stat SS 627.7011, which permits depreciation deduction until repairs are complete. Question 6. Is illustrated by a real-world scenario. OceanTech Corp. discovers that a trusted employee has been embezzling funds for over a year. Their commercial crime policy includes employee dishonesty coverage. When OceanTech files a claim, the insurer only agrees to pay for losses within the most recent policy period. Why is this approach typically upheld? A. Coverage only applies to named employees. B. Crime policies are occurrence-based. C. Losses must be discovered during the policy period or extended discovery period. D. Employee dishonesty is usually excluded after 30 days of resignation. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Crime insurance operates on a discovery basis, meaning losses must be discovered during the policy period or extended reporting period. ISO Crime Form CR01 limits liability to losses discovered within a specific time frame. Florida upholds these provisions as enforceable under FLA Stat SS 627.409. Question 7. During the process of insuring a small manufacturing facility, the insured elects to insure the property at $400,000, despite the building's replacement cost of $1 million. Fire causes $200,000 in damage. The policy includes an 80% coinsurance clause. How much will the insurer pay, assuming no deductible? A. $200,000. B. $160,000. C. $100,000. D. $320,000. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. The formula is payment equals amount carried amount required / text payment equals frac text amount carried text amount required times text loss. Payment equals amount required amount carried x loss equals 400,800,000 equals 0.5x equals 160,000 frac 400,000 800,000 times 200,000 0.5 times 200,000 equals 160 quadrillion 800 billion 400,000 x equals 0.5x equals 160,000. The insured failed to meet the coinsurance requirement. 80% of $1 million equals $800,000, so only 50% of the loss is covered. Supported by ASO CP 010 provisions and Florida coinsurance precedents. Question 8. In light of recent developments in media liability, SmartGlobe Marketing publishes a blog that inadvertently defames a competitor. The competitor sues for reputational harm. SmartGlobe seeks coverage under Coverage B of their EGL policy. Under what condition would the claim likely be covered? A. The statement was made maliciously. B. The insured was aware of the falsity before publication. C. The injury arose out of oral or written publication that slanders or libels a person or organization. D. The competitor was not a named party in the lawsuit. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. CGL Coverage B protects against personal and advertising injury, including oral or written publication that slanders or libels. Coverage excludes not only false publications, but inadvertent defamation is covered. This is supported by ISO CG 01 and consistent with Florida court interpretations of coverage triggers. Question 9. From a practical standpoint, which of the following best describes how deductibles function in a commercial property policy in Florida? A. Deductibles apply to both direct and indirect losses. B. Deductibles reduce the total coverage limit of the policy. C. Deductibles apply per occurrence, lowering the amount the insurer pays. D. Deductibles increase premiums by adding extra fees. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. A deductible represents the portion of a covered loss that the insured must pay before the insurer's obligation begins. It is applied per occurrence, not as fee or reduction in coverage limits, as per FLA Stat SS 627.701. Deductibles are risk-sharing mechanism to reduce moral hazard. Question 10. Upon closer examination of fleet insurance options, ABC Logistics wants coverage for liability on any auto it may purchase in the future. Which symbol should the insurer use in the business auto coverage form to provide this level of protection? A. Symbol 7. Specifically described autos. B. Symbol 2. Owned autos only. C. Symbol 1. Any auto. D. Symbol 3. Own private passenger autos. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Symbol 1 provides the broadest coverage, applying to any auto, including owned, hired, or non-owned. It ensures newly acquired autos are automatically covered without endorsement. Defined in ISO 01 and accepted under Florida Administrative Code Rule 69/100, 70.149, Symbol 1 is ideal for businesses with evolving fleets. Question 11. When evaluating the merits of medical payments under a deal policy, consider a situation where a customer at a commercial hardware store in Sarasota trips over an unmarked floor mat and sustains a minor injury. He is treated at an urgent care facility and incurs medical bills. ISTA does not file a lawsuit. The store's CGL insurer agrees to pay the claim under Coverage C. What is the key reason this payment is made? A. Coverage C applies regardless of fault for bodily injury on premises. B. All customers are considered employees under the CGL form. C. The claim falls under personal and advertising injury. D. Payments are mandatory if an accident occurs, no matter the location. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. CGL coverage C pays for medical expenses regardless of fault if an injury occurs on the insured's premises or due to operations. The injury must occur within the coverage territory and during the policy period, as per ISO CG01 and consistent with FLA. Stat. SS 627.4133 fault is not factor in coverage C payments. Question 12. In the absence of complete disclosure, is Rivera applies for commercial property insurance but omits a known prior claim during the application process. The insurer issues a policy. Months later, a new fire loss occurs and the insurer rescinds the policy, refusing to pay. What legal concept justifies this rescission? A. The lack of legal purpose. B. The contract was conditional and never valid. C. The breach of the principle of utmost good faith. D. The offer was never legally binding. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Insurance contracts rely on uberami fide. Utmost good faith. Misrepresentations or omissions during underwriting allow rescission under FLA. Stat. SS 627.409, which states that material misstatements can void policy even if unintentional. This ensures fairness and proper risk evaluation by insurers. Question 13. To better understand regulatory oversight, consider this. An insurer repeatedly delays payment of legitimate commercial claims beyond 90 days without clear justification. Affected policyholders file complaints. What action is most likely by the Florida Department of Financial Services, DFS? A. DFS may audit the insurer's claims and suspend writing new policies. B. The insurer is allowed a grace period of 180 days under Florida rules. C. DFS will direct all policyholders to mediation first. D. No action is needed unless a lawsuit is filed by the insureds. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. DFS monitors insurer market conduct and can investigate patterns of unfair claims practices under FLA. Stat. SS 626.9541. Repeated delays violate the Unfair Insurance Trade Practices Act. DFS may impose fines, require restitution, or suspend business activity if delays are found systemic. Question 14. The prevailing attitude toward property insurance emphasizes recognizing different types of loss. A bakery suffers fire damage to its ovens, causing a halt in operations. While the ovens are replaced, the bakery loses $30,000 in revenue. Which of the following best describes this lost revenue? A. It is a direct loss caused by fire. B. It is excluded under all commercial property policies. C. It is an indirect loss covered under business income coverage. D. It is a consequential loss requiring a negligence claim. Answer. Correct answer C. Explanation. Indirect or consequential loss refers to financial loss resulting from a direct physical loss. Business income coverage addresses this under forms like AS OCP 030. Fire is the direct cause. A lost revenue is an indirect loss. Florida. Insurers must clarify this distinction in policy structure per DFS guidance. Question 15. Across different scenarios, staffing agencies may misunderstand workers' compensation responsibilities. Sharif works through a temp agency at a warehouse and is injured on the job, who is primarily responsible for providing workers' compensation benefits under Florida law. A. The warehouse company. B. The temp agency that pays his wages. C. The state's second injury fund. D. The injured worker must file civil suit for coverage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. In Florida, the entity that employs and pays wages to the worker, i.e., the temp agency, is generally responsible for workers' compensation under FLA. Stat. SS 440.2 and 440.10. Exceptions exist, but in most cases, the staffing agency must provide coverage unless valid exemption or alternative agreement applies. Question 16. When considering physical damage coverage, Sun Movers Inc. carries commercial auto insurance with comprehensive and collision. A driver hits a deer at night, cracking the windshield and damaging the bumper. Which coverage will likely respond? A. Collision coverage, since it involved a moving vehicle. B. Uninsured motorist coverage, because the deer was not insured. C. Comprehensive coverage, due to contact with an animal. D. Bodily injury liability, since it involved road hazard. Answer. Correct answer C. Explanation. Comprehensive coverage includes losses not caused by collision such as theft, fire, vandalism, and contact with animals. ISO 01 defines this, and Florida commercial auto insurers apply this classification uniformly. Collisions involve objects or other vehicles, not animals. Question 17. In what ways can an insurer recoup payments after settling a claim for fire damage at Gordon's leased warehouse caused by neighboring tenants' negligence? A. By invoking subrogation rights against the responsible third party. B. By denying the claim and forcing the insured to sue. C. By recovering through the insurer's own catastrophe fund. D. By using the waiver of premium provision. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Subrogation allows the insurer to recover amounts paid from the third party responsible for the loss. Once the insured is indemnified, the insurer steps into their legal rights. Florida law FLA. Stat. SS 627.426 and ISO standard forms include subrogation clauses as critical insurer. Right post loss. Question 18. During the process of evaluating liability protection, Coastal Crane Services purchases a commercial umbrella policy to supplement its CGL and auto liability coverage. In which of the following scenarios would the umbrella policy not apply? A. An auto liability claim exceeding the BACF limits. B. A covered lawsuit where the underlying CGL policy is exhausted. C. A professional negligence claim excluded under the underlying policies. D. A general liability claim involving a completed operation. Answer. Correct answer C. Explanation. Umbrella policies do not fill gaps in coverage if the loss is excluded under the underlying policies and not covered by the umbrella. Professional liability usually requires separate EO policy. Per ISO's 201 and FLA. Stat. SS 627.7011 umbrella policies follow form and apply only if underlying coverage is triggered. Question 19. To determine whether coverage applies, agents often recommend endorsements to clarify intent. A commercial landlord wants to ensure coverage for loss of rents if a tenant's fire renders the property uninhabitable. Which endorsement is most appropriate to address this need? A. Ordinance or law coverage. B. Business income. Rent value endorsement. C. Increased cost of construction endorsement. D. Commercial general liability. Additional insured. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. The business income. Rent value endorsement expands coverage for loss of rental income due to covered damage. Found in AS OCP 099, it's essential for landlords relying on tenant rents. Florida. Insurers must clearly describe the scope of additional coverages under endorsement language. Question 20. By evaluating risks for service-based businesses, consider this. Nexus Accounting mistakenly files a client's tax return using outdated codes, result in ERS penalties. The client sues for damages. Which policy best responds to this claim? A. General liability. B. Directors and officers. DO. C. Professional liability. EO. D. Umbrella liability. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. EO insurance covers financial loss due to professional mistakes or omissions, especially in professions providing advice or services. GL policies exclude professional liability. As per Florida licensing guidance and ISO's EO forms, coverage is tailored to claims arising from negligent professional services. Question 21. When analyzing the validity of post-loss transactions, Ista Ortega sells his commercial bakery after a covered loss of fire, but before the claim is paid, the buyer demands the insurance proceeds, stating that the business and policy rights were part of the purchase. Which of the following explains why the buyer may not be entitled to payment? A. The claim payment must always go to the new owner. B. The assignment clause allows free transfer of claim rights post-sale. C. Policy rights cannot be transferred without insurer consent. D. Claims are void after ownership change, regardless of insurer position. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Most commercial policies include an assignment clause requiring the insurer's written consent for policy rights transfer. Even post-loss benefits are subject to restrictions unless consent is granted. Florida courts uphold this clause under FLA. Stat. SS 627.422 and Standard ISO Policy Conditions CP 090. Question 22. Through careful analysis of construction liabilities, a cabinet installation company finishes a project. Weeks later, improperly fastened cabinets fall and injure a customer. The customer sues the company. We see GL coverage part applies in this situation. A. Coverage bodily injury and property damage. B. Coverage B. Personal and advertising injury. C. Coverage C. Medical payments. D. Coverage products completed operations aggregate. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. When injury or damage occurs after a product or work is completed and off premises, it falls under the products completed operations hazard. This has its own aggregate limit under ISA CG01, Florida. Insurers define this limit separately to manage long-tail liabilities under FLA. Stat. SS 627.4132. Question 23. With respect to ethical sales practices, Agent Lisa promotes a new policy to small businesses using exaggerated savings and false testimonials. She does not disclose product limitations. A competitor files a complaint. What consequence might Agent Lisa face under Florida law? A. Revocation of license for unfair trade practices. B. Mandatory retraining but no formal penalty. C. Exemption due to competitive speech protections. D. DFS intervention only if a consumer complains. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. False advertising and omission of material facts are violations of FLA. Stat. SS 626.9541, the Unfair Insurance Trade Practices Act. The Florida DFS may impose fines, suspend or revoke the license of agents engaging in deceptive marketing, regardless of whether consumer files complaint. Question 24. When presented with damage scenarios, a business files a claim for collapse of a ceiling due to hidden decay. That policy uses the broad form causes of loss. Which of the following best describes the claim outcome? A. The claim is excluded because collapse is never covered. B. Broad form includes collapse caused by hidden decay. C. Special form excludes collapse unless separately endorsed. D. Collapse is only covered under the basic form. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. The broad form, as OCP 1020, adds named perils beyond the basic form, including collapse due to hidden decay, insect or vermin damage, and defective materials when collapse ensues. Florida. Insurers follow this framework for risk clarity under FLA. Stat. SS 627.4131. Question 25. To illustrate this point, AutoZone Repairs, a licensed Florida auto service center, holds a garage coverage form policy. A customer's vehicle is damaged by a fire while in the repair shop overnight. Which section of the policy is designed to cover this? A. Garage keeper's coverage, direct primary. B. Business auto physical damage. C. General liability. Damage to property of others. D. Garage operations. Products and work. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. The garage keeper's provision of the garage coverage form ISO 05 provides physical damage coverage for customers' autos in the care, custody, or control of the insured. The direct primary applies regardless of negligence. This aligns with Florida commercial auto policy standards. Question 26. From a historical standpoint, a business tenant insures the entire commercial building they occupy even though they are not the owner. A fire damages the property. Can the tenant collect for damage to the full structure? A. Yes, if they paid the premiums. B. No, they lack insurable interest in the full building. C. Yes, if they have a long-term lease. D. No, unless the lease requires them to maintain the structure. Answer. Correct answer B. Explanation. Under FLA, Stat. SS 600 27.405 recovery is limited to an insured's insurable interest at the time of loss. Tenant may insure tenant improvements or leasehold interest, but not the full structure without ownership or contractual obligation. Insuring property without interest risks policy invalidation. Question 27. The development of commercial construction insurance leads to a scenario where a restaurant under construction is damaged by a windstorm. The owner purchased builder's risk coverage but had not yet installed windows or electrical systems. Will the builder's risk policy respond? A. No, coverage only applies after full enclosure. B. Yes, it covers property under construction from direct physical loss. C. No, wind is excluded until the building is complete. D. Yes, but only after the certificate of occupancy is issued. Answer. Correct answer B. Explanation. Builders' risk policies as OCP 020 provide coverage for property under construction against named or all perils, depending on form. Wind damage is typically covered unless excluded by endorsement or coastal wind restrictions. Coverage applies during construction, even if systems aren't complete. Question 20. The question remains whether a Florida commercial insured can rely on state support after insurer insolvency. If a licensed property insurer becomes insolvent, what protection does the Florida Insurance Guarantee Association FIGA provide to eligible claimants? A. Full payment for all claims regardless of limit. B. Reimbursement for fraud claims only. C. Partial claim payment up to statutory limits. D. No coverage applies to commercial insurance. Answer. Correct answer C. Explanation. FIGA pays covered claims from insolvent insurers within statutory limits. Currently $300,000 per claim for commercial property, excluding certain types like inland marine, per FLA. Stat. SS 631.57 FIGA ensures consumer protection and continuity despite insurer failure. Fraud claims may be excluded. Question 29. As a result of internal decisions, a Florida-based nonprofit faces a lawsuit alleging mismanagement of funds by its board members. The board has DO insurance. Which of the following best describes how this policy responds? A. It covers bodily injury from mismanagement. B. It covers claims against directors acting outside their scope. C. It defends directors from claims arising from management decisions. D. It provides workers' compensation benefits. Answer. Correct answer C. Explanation. DO policies protect board members from lawsuits arising from decisions made in their capacity as directors or officers. These policies do not cover bodily injury or workers' comp. Under ISO DO forms and FLA, Stat. SS 617.831, nonprofits are permitted to indemnify directors subject to liability insurance availability. Question 30. In the modern context of enterprise risk management, which of the following is the best example of risk transfer as applied to a commercial insurance client? A. A contractor self-insures for job site accidents. B. A restaurant installs fire suppression systems. C. A landlord purchases a liability policy for tenant injuries. D. A retailer holds regular safety training for staff. Answer. Correct answer C. Explanation. Risk transfer shifts financial burden of loss to a third party, often an insurer. Purchasing liability coverage transfers potential legal and financial obligations. Fire systems and training are examples of risk reduction, and self-insurance is risk retention. Florida regulators promote informed risk transfer under DFS education guidelines.